for the record. The two women that were behind that make the food for Wawa this morning, they gave me an egg bowl with an astronomical amount of eggs and the other additives, and that's how it should be, because I bought breakfast and now I have lunch, so the rest of I'm already full, and I have I'm still half full, so I'm full and my bowl is half full. So I want to give them credit for whoever they are. So to the corporation, just know that they did a great job, and reward them however you reward people in secret, and I'll never know. The things I want to talk about before I get to work, and I'll see if I can do that, because I have 50 minutes and I already put 2,000 miles, and I just got the truck last month. Not even barely, right? But some of that mileage was, a lot of it was riding around and other stuff. So the things I want to talk about, if I can remember, are going to be Dan. I'm going to talk about the things that Kim Jean talked about. Thank God for Kim Jean. I'll tell you, he's like an assassin that when someone tries, he's part of that tribe that conquers no matter who tries to come with some false doctrine or some, like the most important one is Isaiah 61. I'll circle back to that. The serpent, Dan, the heel biter, he bites the heels. I can't help but to think that's Jacob Israel, because it just bites the heel. And then Jonathan Kleck, mixed in there with Jacob being one of the twins, Jacob and Esau. But is he really Jacob? That's the thing. It's like, why wouldn't he be really Jacob? I just always thought everybody's lying. Just right off the bat, not everybody's lying. Everybody's trying to act like somebody else. But the thing is, if you're trying to act like somebody else and you have the name, and from the beginning of the script, before I showed up, everybody is an actor. So everybody's acting, they have roles, they play different characters. I mean, who got the character of John Quentin Wise? What a lucky person you are, man. I'll tell you, you would do that character for free, wouldn't you? And that's the thing. You guys get paid like $5-10 million to play this, just a John from where is he from? Pennsylvania. You're playing this character that is so vile and just such a creepy laugh, and that's why I can make fun of you, is because you're making fun by playing those characters. And to think that you get paid millions of dollars to do it is just insane. And I'm doing this for free. I can see why, John from Denver, if you had $10 million from playing the character of John Quentin III, that you would split it with me. And I understand why, because it's like you would have done that character for free. But so you might as well do it for free. Just hand me the money, because I don't have any. And if I was you, or if I was anybody who was from the Illuminati that was playing a character, or just whoever you are, and you have millions of dollars laying around, and the show's not over yet, but when the show's over, if I was any of you, and I was paying attention to me for 6 years, following me around, knowing, like, testing me with gang stalking tactics, doing it vindictively in the beginning, and then once I finally caught on, it becomes appreciated and actually more funny, because I'm catching on to your tactics, and then now I know what you're doing, and then I start picking apart who you are, and I start revealing these secrets that only God can reveal, because that's all he does, is he reveals secrets, and he gives his information to his prophets to reveal them to the serpent race, and that's why Eve was told by God that her seed will be her seed, her one seed will be cause enmity between the serpent race. And I believe the same thing was said about Mary. So I feel like they're the same people, Mary and Eve, like the same, Adam and Eve, and Mary and Joseph. So yeah, I would definitely share my millions with me if I were any of you when the show's over. And so back to Kim Jean, what he was talking about yesterday. I did a video at the farm, and I uploaded it yesterday. I wasn't going to upload it. I was just going to keep it for, go back to when I wanted to show a donkey, or then I would show Matthew Daly's face from 5 years ago when I first started, because my triumphal entry was the fact that I had someone like Matthew Daly focus 3 hours plus between the 6th and the 9th hour on my 11th month and first day, 111, as Matthew Daly had 111 subscribers, and 11 months and 1 day before that was my first video of 1 minute and 11 seconds with Bowie coming in with a bow, and that was exactly 11 years, 11 months, 11 days after Joel Karim uploaded the very first YouTube video of me at the zoo, talking about the really long elephant trunk. And one thing that Kim Jean was talking about is Dan, the serpent, who reminds me of Jacob Israel. He is able to carry his load very well. You can carry your burden very well. And the load that you're talking about, well, it's Benjamin Franklin Parkway. When you flip the landscape and you look from Logan Square, the circle, and then you go down to the St. Peter's Peckers Altars Park, where Jezebel's, when I showed that one picture, she has like a clock tower on her dress or something, but it's really showing the serpent that she's able to carry very well inside of her body that you can't see. Going all the way up to the top of the chest, it seems like there's some kind of a mechanism. It's like a roller type of thing in Logan Square, and when that thing rolls out, you become like a fallen angel, like that statue, the Enterprise, Freedom Enterprise or something, I think it's called. And so that, I believe that's what Kim's talking about. You're able to carry your load well, Jacob. And then Jezebel is the same in the tribe of, I think you said the tribe of Dan, where you mentioned them in the same breath, Jacob and then Jezebel, and Jacob Ezrael. Jacob Ezra Jezebel is what it sounds like. And then that, I believe, is where the saying came from. A saying that came from the chestnuts roasting on an open fire. I remember creepy John said that one time. He was like, "Had the little bird like chestnuts roasting on an open fire." I mean, kudos to whoever came up with that damn character. My goodness. Who thought of that character? Who made the mold for that face mask? Who decided to make this, the voice, the teeth, the nose hair? Who decided to make up the straggly hair and the crooked nose? I mean, it's brilliant. Absolutely brilliant. There's nothing like having a bee in your truck early in the morning floating around, distracting you from a, you know, you might get stung. So that character is awesome. And that's also the park. St. Peter's Park is a place where in front of that peckerhead has an oven. It looks like a five oven burner, and I believe that's where the children get. I believe that's where the children get sacrificed, and they get burned up. I guess Beelzebub let him in. Beelzebub. And then so Isaiah 61. Think about the wordage that starts. And this is where I believe on the Jonathan Clegg side, where this is the second go around. In the beginning, I had already I came across. Remember, my name is Robin Henry Tees. I am a nobody. I am from nowhere. I am a son of none. I don't even have a father. And because he died back in May 14th, 2013. The nation of Israel's birthday, he died on. And so I come into the YouTube platform, and here's how I came in. I made my triumphal entry riding a jackass, because Matthew Daly is a jackass. Now, whoever else he is, he may be Jacob Israel. I thought of that. Jamie the Wabbit. He could be him. He has the same hair and hat that the Jamie the Wabbit character had with the female face. And so considering I came in on 111 with that video on 11/11/11 after Joel Karim made their video, and then 111 later, the month and the day, I was crucified by Matthew Daly, who had 111 subscribers, and he even did it between the 6th and the 9th hour. He literally had written 6 p.m. on the back of his notepad, and right before the 3rd hour, I was crying out, I can't hang here for more than 3 hours. These are all facts. This is just the way it is. And is Matthew Daly not a jackass? Alrighty then. So I uploaded that video at the farm with the horse and the donkey, and then, but at the same time, once that took place on 3/2/2018, 3/2/2018, right before the 70th year anniversary of the nation of Israel becoming a nation again. 2 months prior to that, they, from that point on, well, I was left for dead, is what it was. I was left for dead. And then, right around 3 years later, maybe two. Yeah, it wasn't even really 2 years later. Between the second and the third year, I started to really make an impact and take over Jonathan Click. I took him into captivity, and I predicted that the stock market would crash on his birthday, March 16th, 2020, at least according to the script of that character. He's now 62 years old, and that reminds me of Darius taking over at 62 right after Belshazzar gets slain, and that reminds me of Christopher Green, the rider on the pale horse, because even the queen came in and said, why does your face look so pale? Don't there's a man in the kingdom that can interpret the Philadelphia Art Museum footage with Christ writing on the wall with like a man's hand as he flipped them right side up right before he flipped Bono upside down in room 100. He can show you the interpretation of the writing on the wall, and the words are powerful because they mean exactly what I'm showing you. It's all done in spirit. So, being left for dead and then coming back 3 years later, even from the day that I started YouTube, April 2nd, 2017, not even 3 years later, if you want to start from that timeline, I predicted something that never happened before in the history of existence, and it had to do with the currency, like flipping the money exchangers over. I predicted that the stock market would tumble 3,000 points, and I showed it a gazillion times because I like to have that effect. I like to show very legitimate, tangible evidence of solid, concrete, no dispute of any sort. The only thing you can dispute is, did I predict that? Did I do that? 3,000 points, 4 minutes before the bell rung at 9:26, and Jonathan Click just happened to ring the bell at 2:26, and at 4:26, the lady showed my exact title that I put when I made the video, that the stock market is going to tumble 3,000 points today. I said tumble, and they put the stock market tumbled 3,000 points. So the only debate is, did I do that, or did Jonathan Click do that? Did he make the numbers flip the way that they did and put the title tumble in the stock market because I wished him a happy birthday? Or did I predict it? And the third option is, did they just go with what I said? Did I predict some? Yeah, okay, so there's only three options. Did I predict 3,000 point tumble, and I just got lucky for the first time in my life ever predicting the stock market and last, and it did something that the worst point loss in history, by the way? Or did Jonathan Click make that happen because I wished him a happy birthday, and he thought it would be a kind gesture to ring the bell and let everybody know that on 9/16/2023 would be 42 months. And that's only 5 days after the second 9/11 in Philly, if, that happens. So, or was it like the Philadelphia Art Museum type thing where whatever I do is going to be recorded and already has been. So it's just basically whatever I say and do is going to happen. Is that the case? Because there's no other options other than those three. And each option has a trail of God's vapors of traveling, following God, and there's trails, there's vapors of smoke behind it. No matter which way you look at it, God's fingerprint is behind it. And so that's what happened 3 years later from the time I started YouTube. And then since then, it's just gotten astronomically, exponentially more. John from Denver, you sure do forget the dates as to what day it is. Kind of like Richie from Boston does. Because he's not around really much anymore, is he? He has that deep voice. So, yeah. So 3 years went by since that moment. And then 3 more years has gone by since then. So the beginning, I believe, well, it already happened because I was there doing it. And then the second portion is happening right now. But I believe that on the Jonathan Kleck side, what he's going to get people to do, I'll take one of them. I'll take one of them. Just the more hooked up version, of course. All right, John, get me one of those. And it's playing out the part that has already been fulfilled. And this goes to the Jews. The Jews who are looking for their Messiah, I believe they think Jonathan Kleck is their Messiah. I believe Philadelphia literally is looking at Jonathan Kleck as the Masonic hedgehog, Lucifer, but as the Messiah, Jesus. Because what's happening right now is it's like he's coming in riding on a donkey. Even though the donkey has already been ridden, and I wouldn't be surprised if Jacob Israel was Matthew Daly, Jamie the Wabbit. The same donkey from before is here again. And so wouldn't that mean Jonathan Kleck is coming in riding on a Jacob Israel? Because what happened at Wildwood Nibbles Woodaway on May 14th, the 75th year anniversary of the nation Israel becoming a nation again, I met up with Jacob Israel on the boardwalk, Morning Star Boardwalk, Christopher Greenway. Remember that sign, Christopher Greenway, as Jonathan Kleck showing you the star? He said, stop, look down. Showing you exactly what I was showing in my video that day, with the star on the ground, the star on the wall, the orange thing, the circle that was like same thing as a trash can, but also same thing as the XApp circle recorder button, time button. So those two are together. Jonathan Kleck, Jacob Israel. On that day, I met up with both of them. Did I meet up with Jacob and Israel? Or did I just meet up with one person? Or did I just meet up with the beast and the false prophet? Or was it the dragon and the beast? I'm still trying to figure the juxing of positions. But when you're looking at it as a fulfillment in the future with those two characters, but yet it already happened back in 2018, well, then this time around, if you see Christ coming in the clouds, then you're going to know that, well, he's not over there in the secret chamber. obviously. He's not there inside of St. Peter's Peckers Park, where the two thieves on each end, the tree of knowledge of good and evil, are beside each side of the tree of life that's in that parking lot right in front of the art museum. That's a secret chamber. He's not in there. He's not standing in the holy place. He's not. Your temple is not filled with the Holy Spirit, literally, because it used to be, and then now it's a hole, and then now it's a. Now you're worshiping the Virgin because your pecker's inside your belly, and your belly becomes your God, and therefore you carry your load well, and it's roasts chestnuts roasting on an open fire. And he's not going to be in the desert either. So if you go to the Four Corners with the Burning Man desert place, he's not going to be there, because he comes in the clouds. With judgment, with his angels, and you'll see people like Kim Jean confirming the timeline, the disposition of the timeline, because you know why it's important? If someone is trying to act like Scripture hasn't been fulfilled, and as if you're doing it now, not only Kim Jean, but Skip Heitzing. Now the 1,000-year period, obviously that means 1,000 days. It means 1,000. One day is a year is a day. Don't forget this one thing. And then a day is also as a year in the Bible. So if you got to kind of do it's not that one day equals 1,000 years. It's the fact that just don't be ignorant of this one thing, that a day with the Lord is as 1,000 years, and a day and a year is as a day in biblical prophecy. So it's like a 1,000 years is really 1,000 days, which is 3+ years. And then so you reign with Christ for 1,000 years. The devil is, Stephen James has not been talking much. It seems like he's been sealed. There's a seal upon him. Moses is like Jonathan Kleck and Aaron, the second go round, and but then also Moses and Aaron is like Stephen James and Steve Benoon. That's how it reminds me of the house of Judah first, and then the house of Israel next, and then that's why the second time around the house of Israel, and trying to excuse me trying to play out as if the Bible hasn't been fulfilled already, would be tying into the beginning of what I was saying in this video, where Isaiah 61, and I've said this at least a year or two ago, and it was just confirmed by Kim Jean yesterday. Obviously, when Christ gets up and reads Isaiah 61, he goes back into the temple, right, as was his custom. Therefore, he goes in and he starts to talk about the Spirit of the Lord God is upon me, because he's reading from Isaiah, and he gets to the second verse, and then he shuts the book. But he said to preach the acceptable year of the Lord. Now, and vengeance. So when he got crucified, was that the acceptable year of the Lord, or was that not accepted? Number one, there's your evidence that Isaiah 61 is talking about his second coming. When he reads and stands up and reads, and they want to kill him, tough shit. You can't, because it's too late. That's why they're pissed off, and they wanted to kill him. They wanted to throw him off the ledge, but you can't. They said they wanted to. If you're coming in preaching the acceptable year of the Lord, that means you already rose up from the dead, and this is the acceptable year. This is the time where people accept it, because they rejected it in the beginning when he came riding in on a jackass. This time around, he comes riding in on a white horse. The white horse is also the Antichrist. So he would come riding in on the Antichrist. Yeah, you can you can go and buy a white Silverado and try to play it apart, Robin, because that's what you're supposed to do. But really, you're riding in on a white horse, because the first time you were riding in on a donkey. The donkey was the one you're riding in to get crucified. The white horse you're riding in to destroy evil once and for all, and you're going to use the Antichrist to do it. And the Antichrist is going to use a bow and an arrow. I mean, a bow, not even an arrow. The Antichrist is going to use just the bow. Robin Hood came in with a bow, shooting fiery arrows at the 450 false prophets, where the spirit of Elijah was with them. And so you shoot arrows at the 450 false prophets, and that pisses off Jezebel. And so she comes to attacking. But Ahab had a lot of love, even though he had to get destroyed as well. He loved Elijah. Jezebel, not so much. Not so much. So Jezebel and Jacob Israel. It just, doesn't that rhyme? Doesn't that fit? Jamie the Wabbit. The Antichrist being Barack Obama, the character who's behind the character. Well, Jonathan Kleck's obviously behind the character. Who have I been riding in on for the past 3.5 years? Jonathan Kleck. If he's the Antichrist and he's a white horse, man, oh man, everybody's in trouble. Regardless, you're all in trouble anyway. The ones that are still having a tough time with this information. Not disinformation. You don't have a tough time with that. I'm talking about this information right here. The words that are coming out of my mouth. Me, the nobody. Robin Henry Tees. Nobody from nowhere, son of none. Unlearned. Who taught me? The Spirit of God taught me. That He taught me and led me. And you know, I say he because my Father who is in heaven is a male figure to my Father, and because the mother is just a carrier. The Father, the seed comes from the ball sacks, and the mother is the one that houses the essence, the holy essence, the spark of life. So the seed itself comes from the Father. And then that's why the Virgin Mary, when they worship the Virgin Mary, they're worshiping themselves, because they went from male to female, and now they parthenogenesis themselves, and they were able to have a little General Green. Christopher Green here, General Green. Well, who's the lieutenant? Lieutenant Lucifer Tennant? I guess that's who it is, Lucifer Tennant. And then he puts in charge the general. And then the general has himself a little lamb. And he says, oh my God. So that's why the virgin is worshipped, because it's no, I mean, you may not have been a virgin. You may have had sex with women or men or whoever. But when you invert, and one thing that always bothered me when Jonathan Kleck would say inverted, converted, because he said it two different words. Inverted, he's talking about the tree of life, becoming a female virgin, and then being worshipped. You worship yourself because now you're male, female, and you have a baby. You have a little reptilian baby, and the reptilian baby becomes a son of man because you're a man. You change from male to female. The reptilian race, the lizards, the actual lizards, they do that. They parthenogenesis. They create their own baby in their own body. They don't even have a man. The man is inside of them, the sperm. So that's why it's called the Virgin Mary. And the landscape in Philadelphia just shows it all. It's like an X-ray. It's like Satan giving himself away. And that's how I stomped the head of the serpent, because it's an X-ray. There you go. And so when Christ gets up and reads Isaiah 61, and everybody's there to kill him, and then they have people like Kim Jean that can rattle off the timeline and the truth of the matter, just like I said before. I believed when Isaiah got up and read Isaiah 61, that was his second coming. That's why people wanted to kill him, but they couldn't. It's a way of, the timeline is a way of, it's like starting from end to beginning. The beginning you thought was really at the end, and the end is really at the beginning. The New Testament, and then it turns back to the Old Testament with Daniel telling Belshazzar his time's up because the writing's on the wall. Now, if you look at some type of writing on the wall 6 years ago, well, there wasn't really anything written, was there? 6 years later, May 23rd, 2023, the writing's on the wall that very day. Oh, and Jonathan Kleck made sure that when that footage failed with the XApp, he got on the ball. He got calling whoever it is in charge of, I don't know what kind of deal you made or what you said, but that footage failed from the XApp. When I thought that it was solid, because I got good intel from John from Denver about the right app to choose, because I wanted to produce YouTube videos from 30 years ago on that day. And so I believe what happened was I got attacked by whoever's still evil, and they didn't want that information to get out there because that was the end of their career. And Jonathan Kleck is the one that made sure that it repaired itself. That's what I believe. And those two videos that repaired themselves is the greatest footage I ever could have recorded in my entire life. And nothing will compare to it ever. I mean, except for the other song of the Scorpion song, Send Me an Angel. But the art museum footage, the writing on the room 100, Jonathan Kleck talking about going into the building with the wind blades, and I finally went into that building, and I went into room 100, just like he was talking about 100% no lying. It didn't make sense. Turn it upside down, or turn it 100% nylon. Didn't make sense. Turn it upside down. 100% no lying. I went into room 100 that day and turned Bono upside down, because he was leaning on the ground, writing on the, just like mimicking what Christ was doing, because Christ was drawing a line in the sand at that moment. Because remember they were accusing Mary of committing fornication when they're all guilty of the same damn thing. And so he was writing on the ground in the etching it in the sand, the tile, and then I turned him right side up to write on the wall. That way it can be a man's hand, and also the man's hand was a reptilian hand, because you can see the eye, the mouth. It's like reminds me of my baby picture. where I have my dad. My dad's sitting right behind me. His eye is looking right at the top through my fluffy little blonde hair that I had for only 18 years. And so I have a reptilian hand. I have a snake's hand in that picture. I don't really have a snake's hand. It's just a drawing. It's artwork added. My dad wasn't really sitting behind me. It just shows the government. The two government agents were resting on my shoulder. And so that writing is on the wall, and it's a man's hand, and the man's hand is Jesus Christ. And that's what Daniel was telling. He was telling when the second coming of Christ happens, when he returns. Because he was representing, like the Christ figure. But when you go back to the Old Testament, which is happening at this exact moment, where the writing is on the wall, you would think, well, no, that's Old Testament. Well, is the writing not on the wall? Was Jesus not writing on the wall with the man's hand, as Bono was doing the same thing writing on the ground? And then as soon as I flipped my phone completely up, when Christ stood completely up, because he was leaning over like a what's that tree? I forget that tree that leans over, and then there's something in the Bible where the tree leans up, stands up. Well, as soon as Christ stood up, his hand was now writing on the wall. And he was writing, me, men, many. Me, many men. And he wrote it for Belshazzar, who is talking about 1000x, baby! Yeah, well, and you're saying we're the Robin Hood of victory. Well, you're damn skippy, because if you weren't the Robin Hood of victory, then you would be the stomped serpent that would never return to anything ever again. And Jonathan Click is 62 years old. Yeah, we must be right at the perfect timeline, huh? Isaiah 61 last year, 62, and then 63. So 62 full years. I believe Darius is taking over on 3/16/2024. And then at that time, what are you going to throw me in a lion's den or something? I've already survived that. YouTube is the lion's den. And because they tried to trick him, lying about me and everything, but when you come riding in on a white horse, who's the Antichrist, when that's your ride, like you're riding the horse that rules the world, that's quite an entry. That's like reading Isaiah 61 to the fullest, and then shutting the book and saying, what are you gonna do? Huh? What are you gonna do? It's over for all of you. It's time for Christ to rule, and the serpent is completely thrown into the lake of fire forever, because he's loose. Why does God loosen Satan? Why does he let him loose? After 1,000 years of him being bound, and all of a sudden he's gonna come up one last time to deceive all nations. Christ is gonna let him loose. Well, why does he let him loose? Because he set him free. That's why. No, he didn't break out of prison. He was let loose. They let him out. They let him free. He was freed because that old serpent, the devil, was cast out. And if Jonathan Kleck has anything to do with being the devil, and those 3 sea creatures, swan creatures in the Logan Square, the dead center of the all-seeing eye, the target, that's also the target, I believe, Kim Jean was talking about yesterday. That target the dead center of Philadelphia, letting him loose because he's free. Because I came in the YouTube platform hungry like a wolf. I even drove through the McDonald's drive-thru in September 2017 as a sheep dressed in wolf's clothing. That's exactly what Jonathan Kleck is. He's a sheep in wolf's clothing. Because perception is, no. He's a wolf. He's a wolf in sheep's clothing. Again, perception of the characters. Remember, everybody's acting. You are fooled because you think Christopher Green is a great guy when he's really a serpent that has no good intentions for anybody, according to the character. The character itself, the person behind the character, if that character isn't a saved individual, you know, a God-respecting person, because over the past 6 years, how can you not respect God for what he's done, what he's revealed, and how he uses just a little old nobody like myself to do it? Well, it proves the power of God. How do you not respect it? How do you not want to give that person half of your bank account? It's because you just appreciate and love that person. And again, and then also it's like, it has nothing to do with sexual activity. It just has to do with what have you done. So even if Christopher Green isn't a saved, godly individual, he's still bringing Christ into the world just by claiming to be Christ himself. All you got to do is speak malarkey. I am a malarkologist. I study malarkey. I am such a studier of malarkey as a malarkologist. So all you got to do is just talk shit, and you'll bring Christ into this platform. If you talk shit, if you lie, if you talk about me lying like Stephen James, you're going to bring Christ into this world, whether you tried to or not. So yes, to Karen, who made the comment as the other portion of the script to say things to, because it's what your job is to do. Yes, you are correct. Jacob Israel and Christopher Greenway, Morning Star Boardwalk, Pale Horse, that you're riding, that's death and hell is following him. Yes, you are correct. They are bringing Jesus Christ into this world. However, their character itself truly is not supposed to, because they're bringing themselves in. One hand's washing the other with filthy lucre. But the power of God stomps the head of the serpent, the head's Dan, the serpent in the garden, or the serpent in the path that bites the ankles of the horses so they fall. Reminds me of Jacob Israel for sure. Also Stephen James as well. But the power of God shows and proves that no matter how much you try. Oh man, 9-minute delay, huh? No matter how much you try to cover up, hide, withhold information, talk out of the side of your mouth, say one thing, but God can prove that you mean another. No matter how much you try to be slippery, like the serpent, because remember, Kim Jean's still a little slippery, all right? Still a little slippery, but I don't think he wants his head to get stomped. Therefore, could just be an angel from heaven and the serpents are down here on earth trying to withhold information. Or it could have been a serpent himself. I'm not particularly sure yet. He'll have to teach me about that one, and I'll pick up on it. But that's how I pick up on things. I talk them out loud and pray out loud, and I get prayers answered. Yeah, I'm praying to the Father in heaven, but he's using his people all throughout the planet to answer my prayers. So when people try to cover it up, no matter what you do, Karen is correct, whoever Karen is. Jacob and Christopher Green are bringing Christ into this world through the YouTube platform by being liars. Because all you got to do is lie, and I'll pick up on it. And then the Spirit of Christ will dominate that person, take that person into captivity. It doesn't matter how powerful you are, Jacob Israel, Christopher Green. It makes no difference whatsoever that you guys don't need money. You're just like Christopher Green is just taking people's money. Maybe he does still need money as Judas in the end here, playing that role, even though it already happened back in 2018. Playing that role right before the 70th year anniversary. It doesn't matter if you're from frickin' planet Mars. I don't care what your position is. I don't care how much you can gang stalk me and make my life miserable. It doesn't matter, because the time's coming. It's already here. You're already seeing it. It's called coming in the clouds with judgment. And it's the acceptable year of the Lord. It's not the year that was not accepted. Because if you've read Isaiah 61 and he's saying this is the acceptable year of the Lord, well, then that means they're accepting him. They're not going to kill him. But when it was not the acceptable year of the Lord, back before the 70th year anniversary, nobody was accepting the truth that was coming out of my mouth. I mean, publicly, nobody was accepting it. Now you have no choice but to accept it, unless you're stupid. Unless you're gosh dang stupid, then you're gonna reject it and still let the serpent speak in your head and tell you, no, Robin, no, he's a liar. No, he's a liar. Robin, nah, he's a liar. He's a liar from the beginning. No, I'm not a liar from any beginning. You're the liar. And you're the father of it. And everybody's following Stephen James right down to the pit. I am deceptive. I am deceiving you. The people that believe Stephen James's horse malarkey that comes out of his mouth, I can deceive all nations if they don't believe the truth. What I'm telling you is the truth. So, but I don't force you to believe me either. I just keep moving along. I just keep on trucking it. And then however it happens is the way it happens. You either believe it or you don't. And at some point, it doesn't matter to me one way or another. I mean, I would like for people to believe and start telling the truth, because once you start telling the truth and you're in the highest position, the world starts to free up, and I finally get my little piece of retirement. But I don't have to be like Dan the serpent, or what's his name? Kim? I forget what the other guy's name was. But it definitely reminded me of Jacob Israel, because he's resting right now. Oh, of course, it's an accident. Yeah, let's see this one today, huh? I don't believe accidents are accidents. I believe accidents are waiting to happen. I believe it's like an accident waiting to happen. Like the piece of glass that was left there on the beach. It was left on the beach for me. Or was it just the fact that I found the piece of glass on the beach at that moment randomly, and that's why you two sung the lyrics of their song 30 years prior, because this Matrix Dreamland has already been recorded. You already knew that when I was walking on the beach that day, there just happened to be a piece of glass on it. Nobody even planted it there. I just happened to walk by it, and that's what you sung your song about. And the craziest damn thing is that's the absolute truth. It's such a ridiculous statement that comes out of my mouth that sounds that way if you don't have eyes to see or ears to hear. And it's not a jab or an insult the way that you may think, because the serpent throws that thought in your head immediately. It's a reality that I know is true. And in the very near future, I'm going to prove all the statements I've ever said that are true. Because I thought, well, I guess Jonah was waiting outside of the city to see if it was going to be destroyed. And then that's the end of the book. Fast forward 3-4 years later, it looks like Philadelphia is going to be destroyed because Hawaii was just leveled with, you know, the energy weapons that just zapped all types of homes except for Christopher Green's, of course. Oh yeah, and Greg Laurie's church, well, that's standing tall. It has 1,000 members. There 1,000 people are going to be there to help you, and 1,000 of your lords, my lord, 1,000 of them. Christopher Green, 1000X baby, and 1,000 starting out at $1,000 donation, and at the same exact time, Greg Laurie has 1,000 of his lords at a church right there in Maui that's standing tall, of course. So how convenient is all of that? And that all ties into Belshazzar's 1,000 of his lords drinking from the cup. And the cup is that robot, that drunken robot, AI robot drinking from the cup, like Jacob Israel with the Uranus is a planet cup mug. Because Uranus is the planet that is the landscape in front of the art museum. That's also the Virgin being worshipped because it was male to female. What else? Is there anything I missed? At this point, I know that it's over. I know that the enemy has already been stomped and destroyed. And all you're doing, anything now is you're just clinging on to the last final straw that you have left that broke the camel's back. It's easier for a camel to go through the eye of a needle than it is for you to go to heaven, rich young ruler. You heard what you need to do. Go sell all that you have and give it to the poor. Oh, hell no. So, I believe the second coming would be the second 9/11, because that would prove the Spirit of Christ was dwelling on the YouTube platform from the beginning of my career, and it just took 6-7 years to manifest. Right on time. What a tribulation that you guys had to go through. The Bible talks about this major destruction and all types of death, and well, yeah, it is death because you got destroyed. You're still alive. It's just when you get assassinated, then that's the end of your career as a liar. So yeah, if anybody tries to act as, if anybody's trying to push that this is the first coming. It's not. It's the second and the last. And when Satan is loosed for that little season, it's because he was set free, and he's going out to deceive all the nations. And Christ rides in on the white horse. He rides in on the Antichrist, because he rode in on a donkey, the jackass, at the beginning. And now it's time to take the most powerful, in charge entity on the YouTube platform and ride in on that. DoorDasher. Like, who's still doing the gang stalking tactics? Like, what do you? Again, that's like the last final vapors of, that's all you got against me. It's all you got is a continual, ridiculous, nonsense, pointless tactics that you have people do. Oh, and you can have everybody turn against me. My family, my wife. You get even, look, if I am deceived by a woman, then let my wife grind upon another and let others bow down to her. How's that? If my wife went to Nashville to meet up with Michael, you know, the guy from before, well, then so be it. So be it, honey. Did you have fun? Did he treat you well? Did you enjoy your fleshly desires? Okay, good, because you want to go out to eat now and have a drink? Because I like to hang out with my wife. I like her spirit when she's not tormented. And at some point I will be with her again, because we are separated. And it's only a piece of paper that says we're married. I am faithful when it comes to not physically ever even attempting to kiss another woman, even though Tina lunged herself at me like Potiphar's wife did with Joseph. And but I forgave her for it, and so did my wife, even if everybody's involved. Look, the reason why I say all these things is because, just so you know, Satan, even if it was true, you're not deceiving me. And even if it is true, you're not hurting my feelings, because I'm stronger than that now. And I know the future, just like you do. You know how you can read my mind? I went into the Ace hardware store the other day, and I'm just trying to stretch my back, like walk straight, because leaning over, I don't want to walk that way when I get older. So I'm leaning up, straightening my back. It hurts a little bit, but I got to get used to it. And I'm thinking, I got to get back to the gym, because I've been so busy not having any time. And don't you know, the first thing that the two clerks talk about is exactly what I was thinking, which proves that Satan can read your thoughts. Because they're like, oh, someone straighten my back. I was going to join the gym. Like, oh, okay, Satan, I get it. You can read my mind. That's great. But guess what? I can read your mind. I can read the mind of your people, which is legitimate. You read my mind by cheating, because you can read my mind through technology, which is artificial intelligence, AI, artificial. It's all fake. You're all fake. You all act like Jesus, all that Jesus characters acting like Jesus, when you need to be more like Jesus. Stop acting like him. I can read your thoughts by the Spirit of God. Not that I know exactly what you're thinking all the time, but I can read between the lines, which is authentic. You're artificial, Satan. I'm authentic, you're artificial. Because ultimately I'm talking to the spirit that works through the children of disobedience. And if you're one of them, well, then you'll get offended until you give up. You're fighting with the Spirit of God through this YouTube platform, and you're not going to win. I have to suffer a long time in order to prove that out. And I'm coming to the end of it, and it's almost finished. The finish line is right up ahead. I can see it. So yeah, you can read my mind. That's great. I don't think disgusting, nasty thoughts anyway. Sometimes Satan throws thoughts in my mind that it's like, why did you? Come on, man. That's not how I feel. I wouldn't do that. I wouldn't say that. And you just have to accept that you're half Satan and half Jesus in your body. And I've accepted it already. And I've stomped, 90% of Satan. I've stomped them out of my mind. There's still a portion of it because I'm in the flesh.